In a world where wealth dictates worth and betrayal lurks behind every smile, one orphan girl's fall from grace sparks a tale of revenge, redemption, and a love so unexpected it defies fate itself. Dive into the heart-wrenching saga of Orphan Girl was expelled by the heiress to beg. Unexpectedly, a CEO in a wheelchair came to propose a story that will grip your soul and leave you questioning the true cost of power. Subscribe now to unlock this unforgettable journey and more captivating tales delivered straight to your inbox. In the grimy underbelly of Cresthaven, where cobblestone streets glistened with rain and desperation, Leela Gray shuffled through the shadows, her tattered shawl barely shielding her from the biting wind. Orphaned at 6, Leela had clawed her way through life, surviving on scraps and the fleeting kindness of strangers. By 16, she'd found refuge in the opulent Vanderholt Academy, a prestigious boarding school for the elite, where she earned her keep as a maid while studying on a rare scholarship. Her nimble fingers mended uniforms, her sharp mind devoured books, and her quiet resilience caught the eye of headmistress Clara Vanderholt, who saw in Leela a spark of brilliance. But brilliance in a nobody was a threat to Celeste Vanderholt, the headmistress's spoiled heiress daughter, whose emerald eyes glinted with malice every time Leela crossed her path. Celeste, with her golden curls and venomous tongue, ruled the academy's social hierarchy, and Leela's existence was a stain she couldn't abide. It began with whispers or rumors that Leela stole from the dorms, that her scholarship was a fraud. Then came the sabotage, ink spilled on Leela's essays, her textbooks torn, her meager belongings strewn across the courtyard. Leela endured, head bowed, heart steeled, until the night of the Winter Gala, when Celeste's cruelty reached its peak. Framed for stealing a priceless heirloom necklace, Leela was dragged before the academy's board, her protests drowned by Celeste's crocodile tears. "She's a thief, a beggar who doesn't belong here," Celeste declared, her voice dripping with triumph. The board, swayed by the Vanderholt name, expelled Leela without a hearing, stripping her of her scholarship and casting her onto the streets with nothing but the clothes on her back. Cresthaven's alleys became her new home, where she begged for coins, her dreams of a better life crumbling under the weight of hunger and cold. Yet, even in despair, Leela's spirit flickered. She scavenged books from trash heaps, teaching herself under flickering streetlights, whispering equations and poetry to keep her mind alive. One rainy evening, as she huddled beneath a leaking awning, a sleek black car rolled to a stop. A man in a wheelchair, his face shadowed by a fedora, extended a gloved hand. "Leela Gray?" His voice was low, commanding, laced with an authority that silenced the street's din. She nodded, wary, her stomach twisting as he introduced himself as Elias Kane, CEO of Kane Enterprises, a tech empire that powered half the city. At 30, Elias was an enigma crippled in a mysterious accident, yet wielding power that made tycoons tremble. "I've been watching you," he said, his steel-gray eyes piercing. "Your mind is wasted on these streets. Marry me, and I'll give you the world." Leela's breath caught, suspicion warring with hope. A proposal from a stranger, a billionaire no less, seemed like a cruel jest. But Elias was no jester. He'd seen her resilience, her late-night studies, through a network of informants who tracked Cresthaven's forgotten. He offered her a contract, marriage for a year, in exchange for wealth, education, and a chance to reclaim her dignity. Desperate but not naive, Leela demanded answers. "Why her? Why now?" Elias's smile was cryptic. "Because you're a survivor, like me, and I need someone who can't be bought." Against her better judgment, Leela accepted, signing her name on a document that felt like a pact with the devil. The next day, she was whisked to his penthouse, a glass fortress overlooking the city, where maids dressed her in silk and tutors awaited to hone her intellect. But the fairy tale was laced with thorns. Elias was no prince. He was cold, calculating, his wheelchair a throne from which he orchestrated deals and demolished rivals. Whispers among the staff hinted at a darker motive. He needed a wife to secure merger with a conservative board that valued family optics. Leela, the perfect sob story, was his key to legitimacy. Yet, as weeks turned to months, she saw cracks in his armor, a flinch when she touched his hand, a haunted look when he thought she wasn't watching. He began to share fragments of his pasta. An accident that took his legs and his brother, a betrayal by those he trusted. Leela, too, opened up, her tales of the streets softening his edges. Their marriage, born of convenience, grew complicated, electric with unspoken longing. Meanwhile, Celeste, now engaged to a senator's son, seethed at Leela's rise, her spies feeding her every detail of the orphan's new life. Determined to ruin Leela again, Celeste orchestrated a smear campaign, leaking doctored photos of Leela with another man, claiming she'd seduced Elias for his fortune. The scandal threatened Kane Enterprises, and Elias's board demanded Leela's ouster. But Leela, no longer the timid maid, had learned to play the game. She'd secretly enrolled in night classes, mastering coding and finance, and uncovered Celeste's digital fingerprints in the smear. In a daring move, Leela hacked Gala's projector system, exposing Celeste's lies to Cresshaven's elite, her voice steady as she recounted her expulsion and framed theft. The crowd gasped, Celeste's facade shattered, and the heiress fled in disgrace, her engagement broken, her family's influence crumbling. But the victory was bittersweet. Elias, furious at Leela's reckless hack, revealed a final twist. He'd known about Celeste's frame-up from the start, having traced the necklace's sale to a pawn shop linked to the Vanderholts. He'd used Leela's pain as bait to draw out Celeste's corruption, securing evidence to topple the Vanderholt empire, a rival to his own. "You were a pawn," he admitted, voice raw, "but you became my queen." Leela's heart broke, betrayal stinging deeper than Celeste's cruelty. She walked away, refusing his wealth, determined to forge her own path. Months later, she stood at the helm of her own startup, built with skills honed in Elias's world, her name whispered in boardrooms as a rising star. On the eve of her company's launch, Elias appeared, no longer in his wheelchair, his legs restored through experimental tech he'd funded in secret. "I was wrong," he said, vulnerability replacing his old arrogance. "I don't want a queen, I want a partner." Leela studied him, the man who'd lifted her from the gutters only to wound her, yet whose belief in her had sparked her transformation. In a twist of fate, she extended her hand not for a ring, but for a handshake. "Partners, then," she said, a smile breaking through. Together, they faced Cresshaven's skyline, two survivors rewriting their story, not as beggar and billionaire, but as equals, bound by scars and dreams.